Hello, my friends. I'm Dave, and this is my little podcast. It's a love letter to the horror genre that shaped and influenced me. It's a love letter dedicated to my beautiful wife, who wants to walk with me in the scary world of the horror genre, and the even scarier world of reality. Before we dive into today's episode, we want to give our listeners a heads up about the content we'll be discussing. This film contains and will be analyzing extremely graphic imagery. Now, obviously the horror genre is usually a home for all this stuff, but I feel that this one warrants a bit of an extra heads up. The imagery includes things like sexual violence and sadomasochistic content, graphic depictions of torture, and a discussion of snuff films and extreme pornography. While our analysis is going to attempt to be academic and thoughtful, but we'll be describing some genuinely disturbing visuals and concepts that may not be suitable for all listeners. If you're sensitive to graphic horror content or discussions of sexual violence, you may want to skip this episode. For everyone else, let's talk about one of the most prophetic and unsettling films ever made. Welcome to My Bloody Love Letter. Welcome back to My Bloody Love Letter. Before we begin our deep dive on today's episode, I want to share a personal story that connects directly to what we'll be discussing.
Come on, we'll be late.
Hang on a minute, I'm just setting the VCR.
Wouldn't it be nice to have a machine to record television programs you'd otherwise miss? A machine that would switch itself on, record for up to 2.5 hours over a 3-day period, and then switch itself off again, automatically. The Philips video cassette recorder will do just that, so you need never miss a television program again.
Philips, simply years ahead.
I still remember the day my family got our first VCR. It was in 1981, and I was absolutely mesmerized by this machine that could record television and play back movies whenever we wanted. No more waiting for Friday night movie broadcasts or missing something because it aired past my bedtime. Suddenly, we had control over when and what we watched. But it was more than just convenience. It felt like a kind of magic. The idea that you could own a movie, replay your favorite scenes, pause to grab snacks without missing anything. The VCR didn't just change how we watched movies. It changed our relationship with media itself. It went from passive recipients of whatever broadcasters decided to show us to active curators of our own viewing experience.
This is a First Choice Super Channel feature presentation. Rated R by Primetime Magazine. The following program contains scenes of extreme violence and coarse language. Viewer discretion is advised.
Then, in February of 1983, in Canada, of course, suddenly we had access to channels that showed uncut unedited films, movies that would never appear on broadcast television. It felt like discovering a secret world, like gaining access to forbidden transmissions. The possibilities seemed endless and, if I'm being honest, slightly dangerous. And for better or worse, it opened up something for me and my generation. We were now being exposed to something that, well, something perhaps we shouldn't be seeing. Our senses were being bombarded with often uncensored content that revealed to our impressionable brains a new arena of entertainment. This movie that we'll be discussing left such an impression on me at such a time as this new media landscape was being discovered. This film, in my opinion, is the work of a true master of genre storytelling. You are repulsed and compelled at the same time as you walk into his world, as you step into his Videodrome.
Videodrome. The most provocative motion picture experience of our time. From David Cronenberg, the creator of Scanners. Starring James Woods and Deborah Harry. First, it controls your mind. Then, it destroys your body. Videodrome. Coming.
Before we dive in, let's go over the rules governing our top 20 horror films of the 80s, where Videodrome holds a significant place. So, rule number 1. A film must be released between 1980 and 1989. That's easy. Rule number 2. If it's part of a franchise, only one entry per franchise allowed. So, no multiple Friday the 13th entries, no multiple Nightmare on Elm Street, no multiple Halloween, so on and so on. In rule number 3, I'm tweaking. So the third rule was and is only one film per director. And I had made something called the Carpenter rule. And I felt that, because Carpenter is such an influence on me, especially during the 80s, that he should get a pass. But I'm gonna rescind that one, because even though Carpenter will have a place on this, he could have taken up many places on this list. And so I'm gonna stick to one film per director. And this includes my beloved John Carpenter. So going to a director like David Cronenberg, he too could have had multiple films on this list. So it became clear that there was going to be films that might have gotten squeezed out just because of the amazing filmography of some of these fantastic directors. So I felt, to make it more challenging and to create a list that was more diverse, that we would take out the John Carpenter rule. I'm so sorry, John. Please forgive me. Now that is out of the way, let's chat about number 17 on the films of the 80s that influenced me and my love of horror cinema. Growing up during this new age of media in the early 80s, my generation was among the first to experience screens as a second reality. We were the test subjects for what unlimited access to media content would do to human consciousness. We didn't know it then, but we were living through exactly what David Cronenberg was exploring in Videodrome. These technologies didn't just give us more entertainment options, they fundamentally shaped how we process reality. The line between what we experience directly and what we consume through screens began to blur. And that transformation, that evolution into what Cronenberg called the new flesh, is exactly what we're exploring today.
I think that massive doses of Videodrome signal will ultimately produce and control hallucination to the point that it will change human reality.
Today we're exploring a film that predicted our current reality with terrifying accuracy. In 1983, David Cronenberg released Videodrome, a movie about how television literally rewires human consciousness. And 42 years later, we're living in that world where algorithms shape our thoughts. Social media creates physical addiction. And the line between reality and simulation has completely dissolved. Cronenberg didn't set out to be a prophet. He's gone on record as saying that he didn't think that his job was to be a prophet. But because of the sensibility you have as an artist for what is going on around you, inevitably you will anticipate things almost by accident that will seem prophetic after the fact. But here's the thing. Videodrome isn't just eerily prescient. It's also one of the most philosophically complex, viscerally disturbing, and artistically ambitious films ever made. Today, we're going to dive deep into Cronenberg's masterpiece to help us understand how it predicted our current media hellscape and why it remains more relevant than ever. Before we dive into Videodrome itself, we need to understand the mind that created it. David Cronenberg, the Canadian filmmaker who would become known as the father of body horror, though he never really liked that term. So I'm going to try and put it in his words. So this is a quote from Cronenberg. So here's going to be my impression of Cronenberg. You know, they talk about me as the inventor of body horror, but I've never thought of it as being horrific. Of course, you're being a showman, and if you're making a low-budget horror film, there were a lot of those around at the time. And how do you get yourself noticed? Certainly, I was in the world and not an abstractionist. I was trying to make movies and continue to make movies. But there's the philosophical underpinning for all of it. If neurology is reality, then that's an incredible theme. So how do you make a structure? How do you structure a narrative that will discuss that? Immediately, you're interchanging the body to change the reality. And that's what led me to all those things like Videodrome. End of bad impression. By 1983, Cronenberg had already established himself as cinema's premier explorer of biological horror. Films like Shivers, Rabid, and The Brood had explored external parasites and psychological manifestations made flesh. Scanners had been his breakthrough hit, dealing with telepathic powers and corporate conspiracy. But it was Videodrome that marked a crucial evolution. This was Cronenberg moving from simple body horror towards something more complex. A meditation on how technology doesn't just affect us, it transforms us at the cellular level. This was the bridge between his early exploitation work and later masterpieces like The Fly and Dead Ringers. Cronenberg's Canadian identity is crucial to understanding Videodrome. As he explained, Marshall McLuhan, who appears as a character in Videodrome under the name of Professor Brian Oblivion, he felt that one of the reasons he could make such a contribution to understanding media and communications was that we as Canadians are outside the river of America. A fish doesn't know what water is. When we are commenting on American culture, which of course has influenced the entire world, we have a unique standpoint. We are close to it, but we're not in it. So we can see some things that an American cannot see. This outsider perspective allowed Cronenberg to see American media culture with a clinical, analytical eye. Videodrome is fundamentally about American television and its effects, but seen through the lens of someone just outside that system. The film had deeply personal roots for Cronenberg. As a child, he would spend late nights trying to pick up broadcast signals, worrying about the possibility of encountering something that wasn't meant for public consumption. This childhood anxiety about forbidden transmissions became the seed of Videodrome's central premise. Videodrome follows Max Renn, played with ferocious intensity by James Woods. And Max runs Channel 83, a sleazy Toronto UHF station specializing in exploitation programming. Always hunting for edgier content, Max discovers a pirate signal called Videodrome, a plotless show featuring what appears to be real torture and murder. His investigation leads him to Dr. Brian Oblivion, Cronenberg's version of Marshall McLuhan, who warns that Videodrome isn't just entertainment. It's a signal that physically transforms viewers. Max develops a sadomasochistic relationship with radio psychiatrist Nikki Brand, played by Debbie Harry, from Blondie. She becomes aroused by violence and eventually disappears into the Videodrome signal. As Max's reality fractures, he discovers a conspiracy involving Spectacular Optical, a company using Videodrome to program and control viewers. Max becomes both victim and weapon, his body literally transforming, developing a VHS-shaped orifice in his stomach, his hand fusing with a gun. The film climaxes with Max's complete transformation into the new flesh, ending ambiguously with his apparent suicide or maybe even his transcendence.
And now, here it is, the Rita King Show. And this afternoon, Rita's guests are Max Renn, controversial president of Channel 83, radio personality Nikki Brand, and media prophet Professor Brian Oblivion. Take it away, Rita.
Max Renn. Your television station offers its viewers everything from softcore pornography to hardcore violence. Why?
Well, it's a matter of economics, Rena. We're small. In order to survive, we have to give people something they can't get anywhere else. And we do that.
But don't you feel such shows contribute to a social climate of violence and sexual malaise? And do you care?
Certainly I care. I care enough, in fact, to give my viewers a harmless outlet for their fantasies and their frustrations. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a socially positive act.
So let's talk about the cast. As problematic as he is politically these days, James Woods delivers what, in my opinion, might be his greatest performance as Max Renn. He brings his trademark neurotic intensity to a role that demands both psychological complexity and a commitment to grotesque physical transformation. His Max is simultaneously victim and predator, seeker and destroyer. Debbie Harry as Nikki Brand was brilliantly cast against type. The blondie frontwoman brings punk rock authenticity and unsettling vulnerability to the sadomasochistic psychiatrist. Her attraction to violence feels both disturbing and oddly sympathetic. Some other performances to note. We have Sonia Smits as Bianca Oblivion. She represents hope and resistance, operating the cathode ray mission to help people with television-related problems. Jack Creeley as Brian Oblivion embodies McLuhan's media theories, existing only through pre-recorded tapes, becoming a living example of his own philosophy. And we also have Les Carlson, who plays Barry Convex. Yes, his last name is Convex, and he's the head of Spectacular Optical. Barry represents corporate evil, disguised as respectability. And I'd like to also talk about the character of Harlan, played by Peter Dvorsky, who is Max's technical assistant. And just an observation that I made this time, which I hadn't made the last time I watched it, which was, I think he's Canada's version of Jeffrey Combs. Take a look. If you see the film, take a look at it and see if maybe it's just me, but his facial features and even his voice, how he speaks, and some of his cadence reminds me of a bit of Jeffrey Combs, who, in my opinion, is an icon.
You see, it doesn't much matter what you say on the telephone. The telephone as a service is a huge environment, and that is the medium. And the environment affects everybody. What you say on the telephone affects very few. And the same with radio or any other medium. What you print is nothing compared to the effect of the printed word. The printed word sets up a paradigm, a structure of awareness which affects everybody in very, very drastic ways, and it doesn't very much matter what you print as long as you go on with that form of activity.
Before we dive into how Cronenberg uses these ideas, we need to understand Marshall McLuhan himself. Marshall McLuhan was born in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, my hometown, in 1911. McLuhan was a Canadian philosopher and media theorist who became one of the most influential thinkers of the 20th century. A professor at the University of Toronto, McLuhan coined phrases that are now part of our everyday vocabulary. The medium is the message, the global village, and hot and cool media all came from McLuhan. McLuhan's revolutionary insight was that the form of media, not just its content, fundamentally shapes human consciousness and society. He argued that electronic media, particularly television, were creating extensions of our nervous systems, literally rewiring how we think and perceive reality. Writing in the 1960s, he predicted that electronic media would create a global village where information would flow instantaneously across the world, breaking down traditional boundaries. Sound familiar? What made McLuhan particularly prescient was his understanding that media technologies doesn't just deliver information. They transform the people who use them. Television wasn't just showing us pictures, it was changing how our brains processed visual information. By the time of his death in 1980, McLuhan had become a celebrity intellectual, appearing on talk shows and consulted by advertisers and politicians who wanted to understand the power of electronic media. Videodrome is fundamentally about McLuhan's media theories. Especially the medium is the message. The film literalizes McLuhan's idea that television extends our nervous systems. As his proxy in the film, Brian Oblivion, explains,
"The battle for the mind of North America will be fought in the video arena, the Videodrome. The television screen is the retina of the mind's eye. Therefore, the television screen is part of the physical structure of the brain. Therefore, whatever appears on the television screen emerges as raw experience for those who watch it. Therefore, television is reality, and reality is less than television."
Cronenberg transforms McLuhan's abstract media theory into visceral body horror. Max's transformation literalizes what McLuhan argued was already happening. That media wasn't just delivering content to passive viewers. It was rewiring their brains and bodies. The genius of Videodrome is making McLuhan's theoretical insights into literal, physical reality. Central to Cronenberg's philosophy is the idea that technology isn't alien to humanity. It is humanity. As he explained, and I'm going to try my impression again, "Since I see technology as being an extension of the human body, it's inevitable that it should come home to roost." That was pretty bad and very Carl Sagan-esque, but I digress.
The cosmos is also within us. We're made of star stuff. We are a way for the cosmos to know itself.
And he more recently has stated that technology is not alien, it's completely human. It's really an extension of us. The fist becomes a club, becomes a rock. Your eyes become screens. You use your voice as a cell phone. It's all a projection of your body and your mind. In Videodrome, this philosophy becomes literal. Max's stomach becomes a VHS slot. Nikki's breast becomes a radio. Television screens breathe like living tissue. These aren't metaphors in Cronenberg's world. They're the next step in human evolution. One of the film's most sophisticated elements is how it deliberately obscures the line between reality and hallucination. When does Max's transformation begin? Are the later scenes real, or are they video-induced visions? Cronenberg intentionally makes this impossible to determine, reflecting how media consumption makes us lose touch with baseline reality. This anticipates our current crisis of reality distortion through social media, deepfakes, and algorithmic content curation. We're living in Max's confusion, unable to distinguish between authentic experience and mediated simulation. The spectacular optical conspiracy represents Cronenberg's vision of how media corporations literally reprogram human consciousness. Barry Convex isn't just selling products. He's installing ideological software into human wetware. The new flesh isn't just biological transformation. It's political control. This anticipates concerns about how tech companies use algorithms to shape behavior, political beliefs, and even physical responses. We're all Max Renn, being programmed by corporate signals we can't see or resist. Howard Shore's score for Videodrome marked an early collaboration in what would become one of cinema's most enduring director-composer partnerships. Shore creates a soundscape that perfectly complements Cronenberg's vision, blending electronic and orchestral elements to mirror the film's themes of media saturation and bodily transformation. Shore uses synthesizers and processed sounds to represent the invasive nature of the Videodrome signal itself, while traditional orchestration grounds the human elements. The ominous Videodrome theme pulses through the film like an electronic heartbeat, while Nikki's sexual oh, Freudian slip. Nikki's sensual musical signature becomes increasingly distorted as she succumbs. Wow, another Freudian slip. I apologize. Becomes increasingly distorted as she succumbs to the signal. The score doesn't just accompany the horror. It becomes part of the film's exploration of how electronic media penetrates consciousness. Shore treats the body horror not as shock value, but as genuine tragedy, giving emotional weight to Max's disintegration. Of course, none of this works without the revolutionary special effects. The effects represent some of the most innovative practical work of the 1980s, created by Academy Award winner Rick Baker for prosthetics and Michael Lennick for video effects. Rick Baker's groundbreaking work includes the centerpiece effect, Max's new flesh transformation, where his abdomen opens into a VHS-compatible orifice. Baker also created Nikki's radio breast with working tuning dial, the pulsating television sets, and Harlan's tumor gun hybrid appendage. Baker's effects go beyond shock value to create visceral metaphors for Cronenberg's themes. Each transformation represents the literal merger of flesh and technology, making abstract concepts tangible and horrifying. And we also have Michael Lennick's video effects. They were revolutionary for 1983 as well. He created this hypnotic Videodrome broadcast and the breathing organic quality of television screens. His analog video processing creates images that feel both electronic and organic, supporting the theme that media and flesh are becoming indistinguishable. The collaboration between Baker's tactile prosthetics and Lennick's ethereal video work creates a unique visual language that has influenced body horror ever since. Their effects don't just serve the plot, they become the primary means through which Cronenberg expresses his philosophical ideas. what's genuinely unsettling about watching Videodrome in 2025. Cronenberg got it all right. Not the specific details, but the essential truth about how media would evolve. Consider what the film predicted. It predicted interactive television, which Cronenberg called a metaphor for the internet. He predicted personalized content that isolates viewers in ideological bubbles. He predicted the addiction potential of media consumption and the reality distortion through media manipulation. The corporate use for media for behavioral programming. The physical effects of screen addiction, viral content spreading through networks, and the collapse of distinction between reality and simulation. As Cronenberg noted, there have been attempts to remake about 8 of his early films, including Videodrome. And he said that what would a current version of Videodrome look like? That he wouldn't have an idea. Because in a way, a lot of what has happened, it's here. Today's social media algorithms function exactly like the Videodrome signal. They study our responses, they learn our weaknesses, and feed us increasingly extreme content to maintain engagement. We develop what Max experiences, an addiction to content that we know is harmful, but we can't resist. The physical effects Cronenberg imagined, the literal rewiring of consciousness, are happening through dopamine manipulation, attention capture, and behavioral modification. We're all growing VHS slots in our stomachs. We just call them smartphones. Videodrome's influence extends far beyond horror cinema. The Matrix's reality simulation themes, Black Mirror's technological paranoia, the cyberpunk genre's human-machine fusion, all trace back to concepts Cronenberg explored here. More importantly, Videodrome provides a framework for understanding our current media crisis. It's not just entertainment. It's a diagnostic tool for recognizing how media consumption changes us at the neurological level. This film has gained tremendous academic respect over the decades. It's studied in media theory courses, in film schools, and cultural criticism programs. It's recognized as a serious philosophical work disguised as exploitation cinema. Critics and scholars have noted how the film anticipated post-human theory, media ecology, and digital culture studies. It's taught alongside McLuhan's writing as an essential text for understanding media's effects on consciousness. Not bad for a Toronto boy. In discussion of such heady topics, it raises some pretty uncomfortable questions. One of Videodrome's most challenging aspects is its treatment of media violence. The film doesn't simply condemn violent media. It suggests that consuming such content physically transforms the viewer. This raises, again, uncomfortable questions about our own media consumption. Are we changed by what we watch? Does exposure to violent content make us more violent? The film doesn't provide easy answers, but it forces us to confront these questions in visceral terms. This is an interesting conversation to have side by side with the previous conversations we had in our previous episode, Trick or Treat, and how media was being used as a bit of a scapegoat for society's ills. Videodrome brings forward the very reality that media could be the problem. Interesting. So, Debbie Harry's Nikki Brown represents one of the film's most complex elements. Is she a victim of the Videodrome signal, or is she a willing participant in her own destruction? Her sexual arousal from violence complicates simple victim narratives. This anticipates current debates about consent, agency, and exploitation in digital media. How do we distinguish between choice and coercion when the medium itself is designed to be addictive? Videodrome faces the same paradox as any critique of media violence. It must show what it's critiquing. The film is genuinely disturbing, genuinely exploitive in some ways. Cronenberg acknowledged this contradiction, but argued it was necessary to make his point effectively. This raises questions about critical art. Can you critique something without participating in it? How do you warn about media's dangers without using media's tools?
Nikki.
Well, here we are at last. Right where we ought to be. On Videodrome. What are you waiting for, lover? Let's perform. Let's open those neural floodgates.
Videodrome ends with Max's final transformation, his apparent transcendence or destruction, as he declares, "Death to Videodrome, long live the new flesh." It's one of cinema's most ambiguous endings. Is this death? Is it rebirth? Or is it just another hallucination? But here's what's not ambiguous. We are the new flesh. We've all been transformed by our media consumption in ways Cronenberg imagined. Our attention spans, our social behaviors, our political beliefs, even our physical posture, all shaped by algorithmic programming we barely understand. The question isn't whether Videodrome was prophetic. It was. The question is, what do we do with that prophecy? Do we accept our transformation as inevitable evolution, or do we resist the programming? Cronenberg believed transformation was natural, even necessary. Technology is us, he insisted. We created these systems because they fulfill human needs and desires. The horror isn't that we're changing. It's that we're changing without conscious choice or understanding. Videodrome remains essential viewing, not because it's a great horror film, though it is, but because it provides tools for understanding our current reality. In a world where reality and simulation blur daily, where corporate algorithms shape consciousness, where media addiction is epidemic, Cronenberg's vision serves as both warning and diagnostic manual. We're all living in the Videodrome now. The only question is whether we're conscious participants in our own transformation, or rather we're just passive receivers of whatever signal happens to find us. I want to give some credit to some of the sources for my research for this episode. In particular, Cronenberg on Cronenberg. It was edited by Chris Rodley. And the Criterion Collection Videodrome commentary and features. I'd also encourage reading up on Marshall McLuhan's Understanding Media, and the medium is the massage.
I was hoping you'd be back.
I'm here to guide you, Max. I've learned a lot since I last saw you. I've learned that death is not the end. I can help you.
I don't know where I am now. I'm having trouble finding my way around.
That's because you've gone just about as far as you can with the way things are. Videodrome still exists. It's very big, very complex. You've hurt them, but you haven't destroyed them. To do that, you have to go on to the next phase.
What phase is that?
Your body has already done a lot of changing, but that's only the beginning. The beginning of the new flesh.
On our next episode, we're counting down to number 16 of the top 20 influential films from the 80s that impacted me. And this is an entry of a franchise that was maligned back in the day, back when it came out, but has been reassessed for modern audiences as kind of its own great film that stands out. And I'm talking about Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. It's the black sheep of the franchise that dared to tell a story without Michael Myers. It features Halloween masks and ancient Celtic magic and the most disturbing child endangerment plots in horror history. So on that note, this has been my bloody love letter. Thank you for letting me share these pieces of my heart with you, my love. I appreciate you. To everyone else, please share if this deep dive resonated with you, and maybe check your screen time stats. You might be surprised by what you find. Until next time, question your media diet. Your consciousness depends on it. And remember, love is eternal, but
long live the new flesh.